Ladies and gentlemen, the Republicans are worried about this country getting darker. It's getting too dark for them. This came out in the Washington Post. There's only so many word salad games you can play here. Republicans are disproportionately worried about America's changing demographic composition. So this came out on the 22nd of March 2019. The Census Bureau expects that within the next 25 years, the United States will become majority minority. Non-Hispanic whites will make up less than 50% of the population. That's why they're losing their minds. That trend is mostly, but not entirely, a function of the country's growing Hispanic population. Hispanic Americans tend to have more children than non-Hispanic white Americans. Everybody is having more children than them. And as white America ages and older, Americans die. So as white American ages and older Americans die, the composition of the population will change. Right? You got to have babies in order to have a place in the population. There is no future without babies, plain and simple. It's already the case that more American babies are non-white than white. And as you can see on the chart, you see white declining, Hispanic, Black, Asian, and other growing. That's not the only trend that will be noticeable. By 2050, though, as we note back in 2015, people over 65 will also make up more of the population. Okay, that's because of the lack of babies, y'all. In a new study asking Americans for their thoughts about where the country will be in 30 years, Pew Research Center asked specifically about those two changes. What will it mean to have a majority of the country that's made up of racial and ethnic minorities? Well, it'll somewhat look the way it started out because this country has never been all white. You had the native Indians, and many of them were very dark skinned. So the country is actually reverting back to the way it was once before. Okay, and what will it mean if the over 65 population is larger than the under 18 population? Overall, Americans were a lot more comfortable with the former than the latter. No, not all Americans, no. Um, that makes sense on at least one level. Having a population that skews older is a recipe for a population that's growing smaller. It has to get smaller. We know why these changes are taking effect. So you can see right here on this chart, effect of demographic change on the country. More diverse country, older country. And you can see how people ranked it, according to the color on the bars. Okay. For a political perspective, though, it's that question about the country's increased diversity that's interesting. Pew broke it out among other demographics too. See if you can spot the outlier on concerns about the country's increasing diversity. No, it looks the way we would expect it to look. The darker people think it's a good thing. Okay, we know who doesn't think it's good. I mean, there's no point in even. And look, Republicans, Democrats, y'all pretty much are the same. Okay, okay. Republicans were twice as likely to say that a more diverse country would have a somewhat or very bad effect on the country than to say the effect would be at least somewhat good. Well, that's tough luck for them. It's going to change whether they like it or not. All of the resistance to it's not going to do you any good. Really, you're just making a fool out of yourself over something that you cannot genetically change. No group, including whites, was as likely to have such a pessimistic outlook about the future. It's worth interjecting quickly to note that the Republican Party is itself less diverse than the country, according to past Pew research. The Democratic Party has been diversifying more rapidly. The GOP is actually less racially and ethnically diverse now than the Democratic Party was during the Clinton administration. Well, no defense, I don't know anybody making a full charge over to the Republican Party. And believe me, I have nothing good to say about the Democrats because they're full of crap too. Back to Pew's new data, it's one thing to say that more diversity will have a negative effect on the country. And no, it won't. No, it won't. Like I said, it's reverting back to the way it once was. Period. History always repeats itself. You had a bunch of dark natives in the land before the Europeans showed up. And the country is going back to looking that way once again. Deal with it. I mean, you can't change it, deal with it. But Pew also asked about specific ways in which that might happen. Would white Americans become less than half the population, strengthen or weaken American customs or values, for example? Overall, no, it will get better. It will get better. Overall, about as many people said strengthened as weakened. Among Republicans, 4 times as many people said weakened. No, it'll be strengthened. You know, unfortunately, these are the folks that think people can't live without them. You know where I'm going with that. Okay, it brings to mind a recent PRRI poll conducted with The Atlantic. The survey asked respondents what it meant to be truly American. More than 6 in 10 Republicans said it meant being born in America. Isn't that funny? Weren't we born in America too? Sure treat us like outsiders. A quarter of Republicans said it meant being of Western European heritage, which is to say white. Well, they're telling us we're not Americans. Black man, woman, and child that were born here. They're telling us we're not Americans. There you go. Overall, white Americans don't have as skeptical a view of the future as Republicans alone do. About half of white Americans have an optimistic view of where the country is headed, lower than the views of Black or Hispanic American, but not net negative to any significant degree. View of America in 2050. So you can see Black and Hispanics are optimists. Whites are ones that are less enthused here. very pessimistic and overall, but it'll be good. The change must happen. Plain and simple, it must happen. But that of white American includes a lot of Democrats and independents who have less skeptical views of American diversity than Republicans and Republican leaning independents. Among that group, only 16% see a more diverse country as having a somewhat positive effect, and only 13% think a more racially and ethnically diverse America will strengthen the country's values. It may not be a coincidence that Pew also found that 17% of the party is non white. So, white people are the most pessimistic about the future, and everybody else is optimistic. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a change that is welcomed by many people because, gradually all the stuff that's going on will have to change, whether they like it or not. This is not South Africa. You are not going to get the same results as South Africa because I know some of them talk like that. No, we are a very different kind of people from South Africans. So, no, you will not get the same results that you see in South Africa in America. I'm just trying to warn you, it ain't going to happen. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.